شرمندگی و این دو گل پرپر با وفا خواهر کمکم کن مثل روزه علی اکبر، مثل صبر روزگار زینب میون خیمه بیقرار زینب. من میدونم داغ جوون چه سخته، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب. لیلا تسلیت میگه به زینب و ویلا شده الشهدا بنت زهرا عاشورا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب وای از دل زینب. کربلا به خود نشسته حاصل زینب، وای از دل زینب. چی شدن ستاره های محمل زینب، هدیه برای خواهرم آوردم، دست گلاش و طاهرم آوردم، تو خیمه دارالحرب قوقا مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم، مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم. موندم حیرون شده چشم من و تو خیسه بارون، از حرم نیومدی آخر بیرون وا ویلا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب. ای بی وفا دنیا دیگه داره میرسه غروب عاشورا. ای بی وفا دنیا ای خدا برس به داد زینب کبرا. میدونی واسه چی دلم میسوزه، چادر و موی دخترم میسوزه، تن علی اکبر و این جوونا میون آتیش حرم میسوزه، میون آتیش حرم میسوزه. چه دلگیره طفل 6 ماهه ما هم میمیره، حضرت عقیل بزم می میره با ویلا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان بی وفا دنیا. ای با وفا خواهر من و شرمندگی و این دو گل پرپر با وفا خواهر کمکم کن مثل روزه علی اکبر، مثل صبر روزگار زینب میون خیمه بیقرار زینب. من میدونم داغ جوون چه سخته، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب. لیلا تسلیت میگه به زینب و ویلا شده الشهدا بنت زهرا عاشورا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب. زینب، کربلا به خود نشسته حاصل زینب. وای از دل زینب چی شدن ستاره های محمل زینب. هدیه برای خواهرم آوردم، دست گلاش و طاهرم آوردم. تو خیمه دارالحرب قوقا مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم، مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم. موندم حیرون شده چشم من و تو خیس بارون، از حرم نیومدی آخر بیرون. وا ویلا زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب.
یا ابا عبدالله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا سار الله وابن ساره والبتر الموتور، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله المماهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشيائهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله يا أبا إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاتبا، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله الشمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طالب صالك مع إمام منشور من آل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونسب لك الحرب وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم وأبروا إلى الله وإلى الرسول ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن هاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم وارزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة وأسأل أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طال بصاركم مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابيبكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض اللهم اجعلني في مقام هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة اللهم اجعل محياي محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه النبي صلى الله عليه وآله اللهم لن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه اللهم فضعب عليهم اللعنة منك والعذاب الأليم اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقف هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام بنية الصد مرتبة اللهم لن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جادت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا بنية الصد مرتبة السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائه عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله الآخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم العن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجدة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم، الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. اللهم صل على محمد. دو رکعت نماز بجامع قربة من الله.
وفا دنیا دیگه داره میرسه غروب عاشورا. ای بی وفا دنیا، بی وفا دنیا، ای با وفا خواهر منو شرمندگی و این دو گل پرپر. ای با وفا خواهر کمکم کن مثل روزه علی اکبر، مثل صبر روزگار زینب میون خیمه بیقرار زینب. من میدونم داغ جوون چه سخته، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب. لیلا تسلیت میگه به زینب و بیلا شده ام الشهدا بنت زهرا عاشورا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب. آی از دل زینب کربلا به خود نشسته حاصل زینب. وای از دل زینب چی شدن ستاره های محمل زینب. هدیه برای خواهرم آوردم، دست گلاش و طاهرم آوردم، تو خیمه دارالحرب قوقا مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم، مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم. موندم حیرون شده چشم من و تو خیسه بارون، از حرم نیومدی آخر بیرون ما ویلا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب. ای بی وفا دنیا دیگه داره میرسه غروب عاشورا. ای بی وفا دنیا ای خدا برس به داد زینب کبرا. میدونی واسه چی دلم میسوزه، چادر و موی دخترم میسوزه، تن علی اکبر و این جوونا میون آتیش حرم میسوزه، میون آتیش حرم میسوزه. چه دلگیری طفل 6 ماهه ما هم میمیره، حضرت عقیل بزم می میره. با ویلا زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب یا زینب. بی وفا دنیا ای با وفا خواهر، من و شرمندگی و این دو گل پرپر. ای با وفا خواهر، کمکم کن مثل روزه علی اکبر، مثل صبر روزگار زینب، میون خیمه بیقرار زینب. من میدونم داغ جوون چه سخته، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب. لیلا تسلیت میگه به زینب، با ویلا شده الشهدا بنت زهرا عاشورا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب یا زینب. آی از دل زینب کربلا به خود نشسته حاصل زینب. وای از دل زینب چی شدن ستاره های محمل زینب. هدیه برای خواهرم آوردم، دست گلاش و طاهرم آوردم، تو خیمه دارالحرب قوقا مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم، مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم. موندم حیرون شده چشم من و تو خیسه بارون، از حرم نیومدی آخر بیرون. وا ویلا زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب یا زینب. ای بی وفا دنیا دیگه داره میرسه غروب عاشورا. ای بی وفا دنیا ای خدا برس به داد زینب کبرا. میدونی واسه چی دلم میسوزه، چادر و موی دخترم میسوزه، تن علی اکبر و این جوونا میون آتیش حرم میسوزه، میون آتیش حرم میسوزه. چه دلگیره طفل 6 ماهه ما هم میمیره، حضرت عقیل بزم می میره. با ویلا زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب زینب یا زینب. بی وفا دنیا ای با وفا خواهر، من و شرمندگی و این دو گل پرپر. ای با وفا خواهر، کمکم کن مثل روزه علی اکبر، مثل صبر روزگار زینب، خیمه بیقرار زینب. من میدونم داغ جوون چه سخته، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب، من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب. لیلا تسلیت میگه به زینب، و بینا شده الشهدا بنت زهرا عاشورا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب. آی از دل زینب کربلا به خود نشسته حاصل زینب.
Have everyone's attention, please. May I have your attention, please, my brothers and sisters. We need to get started with our program. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the tawfiq and a chance to be at Masjid Al-Rasool. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your prayers, your Isha and your Maghrib and Isha prayers, including Ziyarah Ashura, inshallah. We will continue our program at the second session. We will continue with recitation of Quran, inshallah, verses 194 through 196, which will be recited. There's a lot of noises. Can I have your attention, please? We will continue our program with recitation of verses 194 through 196, which will be recited by our brother Said Murtaza Nazari, inshallah. The Farsi translation will be recited by brother Hamidullah Abed, and the English translation will be recited by brother Abbas Hussaini. After the Quran recitation, I will have some announcements. And tonight, Alhamdulillah, in Ajaga Mudarris absence, we have two guest speakers. We have Maulana Muhammad Fatah Al-Attar, who will be talking for about 5 to 10 minutes, and he has some about Ziyarah Ashura, about Ziyarah Arba'in. Inshallah, he will be talking about Ziyarah Arba'in with all of us. And then our guest speaker for tonight will be Sheikh Brother Kauthar Khan, inshallah. از محترم آقای نظری خواهش میکنم که تشریف بیارن و آیه 194 تا 196 ما تلاوت بفرمایند. صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الشهر الحرام بالشهر الحرام والحرمات قصاص، فمن اعتدى عليكم فاعتدوا عليه بمثل ما اعتدى عليكم، واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين. وأنفقوا في سبيل الله ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة وأحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين. وأتموا الحج والعمرة لله فإن أحصرتم فما استيسر من الهدي ولا تحلقوا رؤوسكم حتى يبلغ الهدي محله فمن كان منكم مريضا أو به أذى من رأسه ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك فإذا أمنتم فمن تمتع بالعمرة إلى الحج فما استيسر من الهدي فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم تلك 10 كاملة ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضر المسجد الحرام واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اعوذ بالله من الشیطان الرجیم بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. ماه حرام در برابر ماه حرام و همینطور برای شکستن حرمتها قانون قصاص مقرر شده است. پس اگر کسی بر شما تعدی می کند به مانند آنچه تعدی کرده است بر او تعدی کنید، ولی از خدا بترسید و بدانید که خدا با پرهیزگاران است. در راه خدا انفاق کنید و با دستهای خیش خود را به هلاکت میفگنید و نیکی کنید، زیرا که خدا نیکوکاران را دوست دارد. حج و عمره را برای خدا کامل به جای آورید و اگر شما را بازداشتند هر قدر که میسرتان هست قربانی کنید و موی سرتان را نتراشید تا اینکه قربانی شما به قربانگاهش برسد. اگر از شما کسی بیمار است و یا در پوست سرش ناراحتی دارد که نمیتواند موی سرش را بتراشد، برای فدیه دادن آن باید روزه بگیرد یا صدقه بدهد یا قربانی کند و آنگاه از آسیب دشمن ایمن شدید. اگر کسی می‌خواهد عمره را به صورت تمتع در حج ادامه دهد، هر قدر که برایش میسر شود باید قربانی کند و اما اگر کسی مقدورات نیابد باید 3 روز در اثنای مراسم حج و 7 روز پس از بازگشتن از حج روزه بگیرد تا 10 روز کامل بشود و این حکم برای کسی است که خانواده‌اش ساکن اطراف مسجد الحرام نیست و از خدا بترسید و بدانید که خدا سخت مجازات است. صدق الله العلی العظیم. صلوات. اللهم صل علی محمد و آل.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. A sacred month for a sacred month. All sanctities require retribution. So should anyone aggress against you, assail him in the manner he assailed you, and be wary of Allah, and know that Allah is with the God-wary. Spend in the way of Allah and do not cast yourselves with your own hands into destruction, and be virtuous. Indeed, Allah loves the virtuous. Complete the Hajj and Umrah for Allah's sake, and if you are prevented, then make such sacrificial offering as is feasible. And do not shave your heads until the offering reaches its assigned place. But should any of you be sick or have a hurt in his head, let the atonement be by fasting or charity or sacrifice. And when you have security for those who enjoy release from restrictions by virtue of their Umrah until the Hajj, let the offering be such as is feasible. As for someone who cannot afford the offering, let him fast 3 days during Hajj and 7 when you return. That is a period of 10 complete days. That is for someone who does not dwell by the holy mosque. And be wary of Allah and know that Allah is severe in retribution. Sadaqallahu aliyul azim.
خب با تشکر و سپاس فراوان از محترم آقای نظری، حمیدالله عابد و آقا عباس حسینی که قرآن و ترجمه فارسی و انگلیسی را به سمع شما رساندن. On the second session, after some announcement, we will have our first guest speaker, inshallah. But if you are aware, unfortunately, last Sunday in Kabul, Afghanistan, there was another bombing, and a whole bunch of our Muslims lost their lives, and among them was Mustafa Anwari, who is the brother-in-law of our brother Sayyid Rasool Naqawi, who recites Quran here, and he recites Noah for Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. Unfortunately, he was injured, but he passed away last night in Kabul. He didn't get well. We condemn all these attacks on Muslims anywhere that it happens. For the soul of those ones who lost their lives and for Shafa'a or those ones who are injured, please join me in recitation of Surah Fatiha with Qul Huwallah and followed by a salawat, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم وغير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. May Allah bless his soul, inshallah, and give ajr to his sister who lives here with Sayyid Rasool Naqawi, inshallah. With that being said, there's going to be a majlis khatam or Fatiha for Mustafa Anwari, inshallah, on behalf of Sayyid Rasool Naqawi this coming Sunday, starting 11 a.m. 11 to 1 p.m. There's going to be a Fatiha at Masjid Al-Rasool. It's for everyone, for brothers and sisters. So please try to show up. He is one of our own brothers here. So there's going to be Fatiha, followed by Zohr and Asr prayers, and followed by serving lunch, inshallah. With that being said, also on the same day, this coming Sunday at 6 p.m., there's going to be a majlis, a house majlis at our brother Dawood Sakhi's house in Porter Ranch. There was an email sent about it that you received it a few days ago. If you would like, and this majlis is only for brothers. If you would like to go, you need to reserve your space. There is a RSVP on that email that was sent. So please make sure that if you are going, please reserve and make sure that because he needs to know by tonight, and the deadline is tonight. That if you would like to join that majlis, and that majlis is actually for Shahada Imam Sajjad Alaihissalam, again this Sunday at 6 p.m. at our brother Dawood Sakhi's house at Porter Ranch. The email was sent, the address is there, and the code for RSVP is also there. So please make sure that if you're going, again, it's very important that we have to know how many people are showing, so we will be prepared for those many people, inshallah. And with that being said, next week, Tuesday, we will have a special program for the Shahada for Imam Sajjad Alaihissalam, our fourth Imam, at this place in Masjid Al-Rasool starting 7 p.m. because it's a work day. So please show up this coming Tuesday, which is August 23rd, I believe, August 23rd, Tuesday at 7 p.m. for Shahada of Imam Sajjad Alaihissalam. We will have a special program this year. So we're asking all of our brothers and sisters to join for this matam again, inshallah. With that being said, please check with Brother Ziyai Amili and Brother Sayyid Razak and make sure that your monthly pledges are paid. If you can do a little more, it will be greatly appreciated. And as I have been announcing, if you would like to sponsor for the food, the price for one night is $500, but any amount is acceptable as long as you tell Brother Zia Amili or Brother Said Razak that this money has to be spent on the food, and they will make sure that that money will be spent. So again, if you can do $100, $200, or if you're doing well, you want to do $1,000 for 2 nights, that's also acceptable, right? It doesn't have to be always less. So if you're doing well, you want to do more, that's acceptable. But if you can do any amount towards the food, it would be greatly appreciated because our masjid is providing the food lately. So we are in need of funds for food, inshallah. With that being said, I request our first guest speaker, Sheikh Maulana Sheikh Falah Attar, to come forward. And he will be talking about Ziyarat Arba'in with all of us, inshallah. And we will have Aghay Kauthar afterwards. Please say a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
يا الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. صلى الله عليك سيدي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. مظلوم يا غريب كربلاء، ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Allah Almighty says in Al-Quran Al-Kareem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ahallallahu al-bay'a wa harrama ar-riba. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, wal antar salawat. the occasion that we are, all the mu'mineen and all over the world, here in the United States of America, and this masjid, beautiful and blessed Masjid Al-Rasool, mu'mineen, they come and participate with the azadari of Bibi Zainab Alaihissalam, and the tragedy of the caravan of the captives of Mawla Abu Abdullah in these days. As you all know from the history of the tragedy of Karbala, when they took the widows, the women, the daughters of Rasulullah, Zainab and Ruqayya and Kulthum, as a captives from the first day of Karbala after Ashura, 11th of Muharram, till today, 18, 19 of Muharram, and they will arrive later on the 1st of Safar in Sham, and they stay in Sham 6 days, and they left Ruqayya. She passed away on the head of her father. You know the tragedy. So this is the occasion. But I would like to mention this very important word by the permission of my dear, respected brother, Samahat al-Sheikh Kauthar, hafadhullah. He's the main speaker, but with the permission of Hajjat al-Islam, Sayyid al-Mudarris, Sheikh al-Mudarris, a few minutes from your time, please pay your attention for Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. If the occasion is the occasion of Karbala, so what is the connection between this occasion and the ayah that I did recite it to you? You remember the ayah. أحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. This is belong to one of the masail. We have masail, jurisprudence, الرسالة العملية, توزيح المسائل. You have it in your homes to different fuqaha. If you want to see your salat, your namaz, your fasting, your prayer, your hajj masail, you go to this was توزيح المسائل. This is the ahkam. This is the jurisprudence. Faqih, mujtahid, ayatullah, they come and they bring masail, ahkam. This is one of the masail. 500,000 or more than 1 million masail and laws, Islamic Sharia in the encyclopedias. And Qom and Najaf and Karbala and other big houses in the world. One of the masail is selling, buying is halal. Ahallallahu al-bay. Ahalla. By the word of ahalla. It is halal to sell, but there is exception. If you want to sell something, haram is haram, like wine or beer, right? وحرم الربا. The riba, the interest, if you want to sell and buy with riba or give loan with riba, with interest in certain way, if I want to get involved with the masail, it will take months because you will be a student in house and I will be a teacher. So I don't want to bring this few minutes as a, houses class. But in a brief, my dear brothers and sisters, where we get the ahkam from, what is the sources of ahkam, if you want to ask? Sometimes you ask a question, how do I pray? Is it like this? Or put my hands beside me? So you ask the faqih, and sometimes say, why? What is the reason behind it? Who said that? So there are 8 sources, what we call it in our language, the tools that faqih, the mujtahid, the ayatullah, use it to bring the fatwa, to bring the mas'ala, to give you the halal and haram, do or not to do. Number 1, Al-Quran al-Kareem. Number 2, Sunnah. The Prophet, what he said, what he did, what he acted. And third, Al-Ijma', the opinions of other fuqaha. Fourth, Al-Aql, the mind. So this is what we call it, Al-Adillatul Aqliyya, Al-Ilmiyya, the scientific sources, the proofs. And we have another 4, Al-Istishab, Al-Ihtiyat, Al-Bara', Al-Takhir. We don't want to get involved with this. This is the tools. The mas'ala is here. Highly recommended. Some fuqaha, listen to me in your heart with your ear. some fuqaha, half of our fuqaha recently in our time, they say to go the visit the shrine of Hussain ibn Ali, not only recommended as wajib, once a life. We have many hadiths for the ziyarah. And you will come to this faqih, to me, to others. Do you ask which proof you have? The mas'ala is this. We have many hadiths, many stories. One of them is a student from the University of Imam al-Sadiq Alaihissalam came to him. His name is Alqama. Read it in the history. We do have a very, very famous dua, very highly recommended to recite it. خیلی مستحب که شما این حدیث را و این دعا را میخونید هر روز هر هفته. دعای علقمه اسمش. این بعد از زیارت عاشورا. الإمام الصادق عليه السلام he told him ليس منا من لم يزر جدي الحسين في الجمعة مرة. Is not from us the one who come within a week doesn't recite the ziyarah of my grandfather Hussein. They came to him. Alqama came to him telling him, Ibn Rasulullah, how do I do the ziyarah? How do I go to Karbala? We are here in Medina. It takes us 40 days. از مدینه به کربلا راه طولانی است. اون روزها طول میکشید از مردم وقتی که میخوان برنج 1 ماه شاید طول میکشه ازشون. ما قدرت نداریم، پول نداریم، چطور میریم؟ گفت برود روی پشتبون. Go to your home, go to the roof, اصعد على سطح منزلك واتجه باتجاه كربلاء وقل السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام. You don't need to go to Karbala. If you have that ability, go take yourself and take your family members and leave to Karbala, ziyarah. But if you don't have that ability, go on the roof of your home towards the Qibla. Just, we heard this from the ziyarah from our dear brother. He did the ziyarah of Ashura every day, every week, every month. Each Thursday night didn't come from nothing. There is a hadith behind it. You know, proofs for the ziyarah, the importance of ziyarah comes from Ahlul Bayt, right? If you open the Mafatih al-Janan, you will find, especially for Al-Imam al-Hussain Alaihissalam, 17 different ziyarah. اگر میخواید مفاتیح رو بخونید ببینید ما از اهل البیت علیهم السلام زیارات مختلف ما داریم. یعنی حضرت پیغمبر اسلام 2 تا 3 تا زیارت داریم، مناسبات مختلف. حضرت امیر علیه السلام امیر المؤمنین 3 تا 4 تا 5 تا. حضرت امام حسن 1، امام باقر 1، امام صادق 1، هم روز شهادتش. ولی حضرت سید الشهداء حسین ابن علی ما 17 زیارت داریم. روز عید وقتی که ما جشن میگیرید، ما جشن میگیریم. روز عید بعد از روزه گرفتن افطار میگیریم، بعدا عید هم سلبریت میکنیم. ولی زیارت الحسین یوم العید، در روز عید حسین را فراموش نکنید، زیارت کنید که این شهید شد در کربلا. پس زیارت از ائمه اطهار اومدن، مخصوصا الامام زین العابدین، الامام الباقر، الامام الصادق، الامام الكاظم. They used to go to the ziyarat. My dear brother, listen to this, my dear brothers and sisters. Some Muslims from your kids, your sons, daughters, the youth, they come and ask, what is the reason behind it? Because, you know, I mentioned it in between the 2 namaz. The mas'ala of wearing the black is belong to some of Ahlul Bayt. So Rasulullah and his progeny, Ahlul Bayt, are equal with when we get the masail from the second source. Don't forget. Quran, if we didn't find anything in Quran, we go to Rasulullah, the Sunnah, the tradition of Rasulullah, the way of life of Rasulullah, the narrations of Rasulullah, what he said. But beside Rasulullah, also Ahlul Bayt. So we do have many ziyarat came from Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Baqir. Some people, they say, well, from the non-Shia, they say, no. I don't believe in anybody. Just we believe in Rasulullah. Bring us any proof from Rasulullah. The topic tonight, and I am done with it now, with the proof of Rasulullah he himself. خود حضرت پیغمبر خود حضرت پیغمبر قبل از شهادت امام حسین پسرش امام حسین به 40 سال به 60 سال رفت کربلا و امام حسین را و قبر امام حسین را زیارت کرد. خود حضرت پیغمبر و تاریخ را بخوان وقتی که رفت اون شبی که در خونه ام سلمه زوجت رسول الله همسر رسول الله خودش میگفت من بیدار شدم دیدم حضرت پیغمبر پیشم نیست. I woke up in the morning. I didn't find Rasulullah. I was where he is, because people in Mecca used to bring soldiers, enemies to come suddenly to kill Rasulullah. So I had fear in my heart. Where is Rasulullah? I was looking here and there. Then finally he came. Look at this in Arabic. فدخل علي حبيبي رسول الله مغبرا أشعرا بدون عمامة. He didn't wear imama. Usually, if I don't wear imama, just a very small students in front of Rasulullah, you will be scared. What's going on with the sheikh? Why he doesn't wear imama? Without imam. Aghbaran, with full of dust. Turab روش بود. خاك. قفتمش يا رسول الله. My beloved Rasulullah, where you came from? And he was crying. He said to her, Habibi Jibreel took me to the land of Karbala and he saw me the qatilgah Imam Hussain. And he started to cry and to recite the Fatiha, recite the Azadari of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. He is the one who visited the grave of his grandson Al-Hussain ibn Ali. And then he gave her قارورة فيها تراب Karbala, you know, a cup with dust of Karbala, telling her, يا أم سلمة إذا تحول إلى دم عبيط فاعلمي بأن ولدي الحسين قد قتل. When you look at this dust, if you saw, one day this will turn to a blood, to a red surkh. Why it on it Imam Hussain ibn Ali, my beloved son, was killed. And Salama, she said, in the day of Ashura, I looked at that qarura and I saw it changed to a blood. So the proof for us, for you, to visit the shrine of Hussein came from Rasulullah himself, regardless about crying, گریه کردن، سیاه پوشیدن، عزاداری، لطمیه، سینه زنی، همش اومده از اهل بیت. این رایات مختلف، این علم حضرت عباس و دیگران از همش اومده از اهل بیت سلام الله علیه. أبيت اللعن يا عباس. Who said this word? أبيت اللعن. You were so great man, oh Abbas. Yazid, the biggest enemy of Ahlul Bayt. He said that in Sham when he looked at the alam, the flag of Abbas. So with all these signs that we have as part of the mustahabbat and sometimes wajib to go to the ziyarah. So I'm finish it inshallah with this flyer that my dear brother Zarabi has won. Inshallah, every year we have this program. Actually, people, they go to do the ziyarah from all over the world. Most of you also, you've been in Karbala during different occasions, Arba'in or not Arba'in, but Arba'in is the biggest one and the most important ziyarah. The 20th of Safar. چهلم امام حسین. مردم مرن، شما داری میبینید، اگر رفتید که دیدید به چشمتون، اگر نرفتید از تلویزیون داری میبینید live pictures. Last year, alhamdulillah, last 10-12 years I was going there, walking from Najaf to Karbala every year with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the grace of Imam Hussain. You see 20 to 25 million people, they go visit. بیشتر از 20 میلیون زائر مره پیاده از جاهای مختلف، از دور، بعضیا 10 روز 20 روز از آخر عراق میان. یک شهری اسمش فاو در مرز حدودی کویت 440 مایل، بیشتر از 600 کیلومتر میان، 25 روز میمونن در راه و همه راه ها full of services. You don't need to pay anything or to buy anything. Everything is free of charge. They give you food, they give you shelters to spend, to have rest. And usually I go from Najaf to Karbala. They come from Baghdad, from Samarra, from Hilla, from Basra, from Samawa, from else places. Some of them maybe they started from Iran going walking to the Ziyarah. So what we have is two projects every year. Inshallah, you participate with it. I know years I used to tell my dear brothers through the email, through the microphone, attending the majalis, to encourage the mu'mineen to go to the Ziyarah. But if you don't have this niyyah, make your niyyah now. We have almost 20 days left to Karbala to visit the shrine of Imam Hussain. من علامات المؤمن زيارة. Imam Askari said. Imam 11 حسن عسكري صلوات الله وسلامه, he said من علامات المؤمن زيارة العالمين. از علامات مؤمن که شما در روز 40 برو زیارت امام حسین کنید. اگر نمیتونید پراکسی زیارت نیابتی $50 $100 بیشتر کمتر میدید. از اونها که مردگان رفتن در قبر هستن الان احتیاج دارن به ایصال ثواب، به ثواب گرفتن. یعنی to do on their behalf, you will get the thawab. They will get the thawab and reward in the qabr. Or those who are alive, whoever in your niyat, inshallah, you do the ziyarah 1, 2, 3, 5, whoever you want to do, more than one ziyarah, and inshallah Allah will reward you. And this is will go to the zawar. Each zawar we give $50 to do the ziyarah on your behalf. زیارت نیابتی. این یکی. دوم، اگر میخواهید همه زوار جمع میکنید که در 20 روز معمولا حد متوسط وقتی که برم به کربلا، از نجف اشرف وقتی که برم 4 روز طول میکشه. اونها از بصره 25 روز. یعنی اگر 10 روز 15 روز هر روز 3 وجبه غذا 25 میلیون، یعنی شاید 1 میلیارد وجبه غذا باید تهیه بشه. لذا هر وجبه غذا $1 قیمتش، یعنی 1500 دینار. میتونید شرکت کنید به feeding the zawar. This is the second project we have. Whatever you can participate with this great project to help the zawar and help the mawakib, the Hussainiyat who are serving the zawar and giving them free food. So you will participate with this program, the زیارت نیابتی and به زوار غذا میدیم ان شاء الله تعالی. حاج آقای زرابی اگر لطف میکنید اینو بخشش بدید همون الان اگر مانعی ندارید. بعضی آقا اگر میشه این هم برای خانم ها اگر میشه بدید، هر نفر ان شاء الله یکی میگیره و شرکت کنید. من هستم اینجا تا آخر برنامه. والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة الحسين وفي الآخرة شفاعة الحسين. اللهم لا تفرق بيننا وبين الحسين طرفة عين أبدا. والحمد لله رب العالمين. For the souls of all مؤمنين and مؤمنات, and especially for the shuhada who passed away in Kabul. May Allah bless their souls. And do not forget, let me tell you this. I mentioned this when I was in Nashville, Tennessee this year before the Ashura. Those who've been killed in Albuquerque, New Mexico. 3 months ago, I was there, and I know one of them from the Afghanis community. The one with the ugly face, they came and he killed 4 from the innocent Muslims who were attending majalis, belong to the school of Ahlul Bayt. May Allah bless their soul, 4 of them, for their souls, for the shuhada all over the world, especially in Kabul and Albuquerque. رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
On behalf of myself and all Mu'minin and Mu'minat in this masjid, thank you, Maulana Sheikh Falah Attar, for enlightening us on our ziyarahs, on this importance of Ziyarat Arba'in. Inshallah, if we have the time to go, that would be good. But there's a one caravan that is we're planning to go in this December, inshallah, for a few days. So actually, this brother Sayyid Rasool Naqawi, whose brother-in-law has been killed, uh, his dad is taking. He's going as a group. Yes, inshallah. So we are planning for that, but it's going to be in month of December, which a lot of people have a day off here. So again, thank you so much for the word of wisdom and for coming to our masjid. We're humbled to have you. With that being said, I just want to mention again that this Sunday, 11 a.m., we have the Fatiha for Anwar, for Mustafa Anwar, who was killed in Kabul, Afghanistan. Starting 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. was going to be the Fatiha, followed by Zohr and Asr prayers, inshallah, followed by lunch will be served as well, inshallah. And then the same day, Monday, the Fatiha is here. And then on Sunday evening, 6 p.m., we have the Majlis for Shahad of Imam Sajjad Alaihissalam and our brother Dawood Sakhi's house in Porter Ranch. If you would like to show up there and go there, please make sure that you reserve your space. Please go to Masjid email that you received a few days ago and click that button. There's a button there, and that Majlis is for brothers only. And now it's time that we listen to Hajj Kauthar Khan's speech. We're humbled to have you, sir. Thank you for coming. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you ajr and thawab. Inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Please, it's going to be for a while. It's going to be a while.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيد الأولين والآخرين وشفيع المذنبين ورحمة للعالمين أبو القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة أداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, all praise is due to Him. May peace and blessings be upon His Prophet, the seal of all messengers, the guidance to mankind. May peace and blessings be upon our Prophet, the best of all of creation. And may the curse of Allah be upon the enemies of our Prophet and Ahlul Bayt till the Day of Judgment. Please recite a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. First, I wanted to just say that you have Sheikh Falah Al-Attar here. You don't need me to speak for you. We're blessed with his knowledge and his presence here, inshallah. But I asked him several times, and so because of my duty, I'm just going to say a few words, inshallah. I was speaking to Sheikh Falah just a few minutes ago, and I mentioned to him that the reason that I always remember him in my prayers is because he was the one who did the funeral for my mother. And he mentioned to me that his mother passed away also 4 years ago. So for all those mu'mineen that died in Afghanistan, for his mother, and for the marhumin in this community, please let's recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. So tonight the subject, the topic of my speech is the companions, the ashab of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam, and some of the things that we take from his companions, from a few of the lessons that we take from Karbala, a few of the lessons we take from these events of Ashura, and some of the comments I'm going to make here tonight is based upon when I've interacted with many young people in the communities in America and their understanding of Ashura and their understanding of Karbala and these things and some of the misconceptions that they have. But before I go into that, I just want to say something as a follow-up to what Sheikh Falah was saying. There is this ziyarah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. It is so very important for people in Western countries to do this ziyarah. In this country, when we raise our children to come to the masjid. And this masjid is beautiful because it has all the symbolism of Imam Hussain. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 banners here. And our children see this and they come to the masjid. They come to the masjid once a week. Just once a week they come to the masjid. And they begin to think, raising my son in this country, how faqir we are, how poor we are, that our children rarely see these symbols, just these symbols of Imam Hussain. Rarely do we see people cry for Imam Hussain. Maybe once a week for the 10 days of Ashura, sometimes for a few days after that, sometimes once a week till Arba'in, and that's it. And year after year after year, we raise our children. And I've seen for many years, for at least 2 decades now, generally the children in America that grow up, they tend to lack sometimes this connection with Imam Hussain, Alaihissalam, with Sayyid al-Shuhada. And I began to think, why? This is a real problem we have. Why? Many kids say, oh, I can't cry for him. And I was speaking about this with my wife. It's essential. It's essential. It's essential. We may take our children to Sunday school. We may take our children to the masjid. We may take our children and do all of those things. We may even tried our best to be good parents. But the ziyarat of Imam Hussain has some special significance for the tarbiyat of our children. I remember when I was in Najaf a few years ago, and we went to the house of one of the Maraja there. And we asked him some questions. Everybody asks the same question. They go there and they say, you know, what is our duty in the West? And one of them said, he said, do the ziyarat of Imam Hussain. And he said, Hajj is wajib. And if you don't have money for Hajj, the ziyarat of Imam Hussain, even there's a blessing in that, it's much less money. There's many people who they never travel to the Middle East because they say, it's just too expensive. But people have money to do the ziyarat of Imam Hussain. It's not like they don't have money. We all know people in America have money. We can do the ziyarat of Imam Hussain, Alaihissalam. And he said to us, he said, you know, you can go on vacation many times. He said, instead of going on vacation one year, just come here. Just do your vacation here. Even now, Hajj is what? They say sometimes Hajj is 10,000, 15,000, and now they're making Hajj harder and harder. But everybody, or most people, have the ability to go for a ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And it's so important. It's so very important for our children not to just see these banners once a year, not to just see people crying once a year, but to immerse them in that so that they have these deep memories. You know, you talk to people who sometimes they serve Imam Hussain Alaihissalam all their life, and you ask them, I love asking these people who not just speakers, I'm talking about people who are reciters for Imam Hussain, people who tried to serve Imam Hussain. You ask them, why do you do this? Sometimes they'll tell you, you know, when I was a little boy, when I was a little girl, my father, my mother took me to the shrine of Imam Hussain. We simply cannot get that in the West. We simply cannot. It is impossible. It is good. Everything we do is good. And we struggle for our children. And God willing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us for all of this. But if we expose our children at a very young age to the shrine of Imam Hussain, immerse them in it, let them swim in it, let them see people crying, let them see people walking, let them see people giving. There's nothing like that. There's no experience that they can have that's not like that experience, that will register in a child's mind forever. It will register. So I just wanted to say, as a follow-up to Sheikh Falah, it is so very important. We hear about Ziyarah and we sometimes we dismiss it and we say, oh, yes, it's another Ziyarah trip, another Ziyarah. This Ziyarah trip is a benefit to us. It's for our survival and our kids' survival, to be raised as Muslims in America. Now, before I get to my subject, and my subject is raising children with some of these examples of Karbala, but I want to just mention a story recently that happened to me. And I was sitting with a group of young ladies who were my relatives, and the topic came up about the Muharram programs that we were having in the Masjid. And so one of them said something. They said, yeah, the 10 days are over, it's good. We went to the 10 days, and I stopped for a second and I said, okay. I said, but you do realize that the 10 days is important, but the real tragedy happens after Ashura. And they looked at me funny. They said, what? They just stared at me. Now, these were people that I knew. They've gone to Muharram programs all their life. They were in my family. They were raised here in America. But they made this comment. They said, oh, we went to the 10 days and that was good. And I said, but the real tragedy happens, you understand, after the 10th. I said, well, what do you mean? So then I was thinking in my head how to answer this question. I said, what do you mean? And then I realized in that moment that these were people in their 20s and their 30s, that they missed for 20 years this tragedy after the day of Ashura. So I said to them, you realize that what is spoken about at the mimbar, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of those zakirin and ulama who relate the tragedy of Imam Hussain, may God bless them. But what they give us is 5% of the tragedy, if 5% of the tragedy that Ahlul Bayt went through. And so when I sat there, I spoke with these young ladies for maybe about an hour. I said, you do realize that the tragedy is so deep and so bad that the speakers can't even speak about some of it. It's traumatic even for them. Sometimes there's children in the room. It's so traumatic, some of these events that happened. And then I began to, just in that sitting, I was sitting in the living room and I just began to tell them, these are some of the things that go, if you read the books of what happened, it's not just, we give 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes to one of the shuhada per night. And we do that every year. And so they came away with the impression that that's it. That was the tragedy. That's all that happened. And I said, no. The tragedy is far worse. And I began to start to recite these, just talk to them about, this is what happened to Ahl al-Bayt after the 10th. This is what happened to Zainab. This is what happened to Ruqayyah. This is what happened to Imam Sajjad, Alaihissalam. They were quiet. They just were staring at me. Then they started asking questions. They started saying, really? This is what happened? I said, yes. And I started going into detail. I'm not going into detail now about the body of Imam Hussain and the head of Imam Hussain, Abu Abdullah, and what happened to Zainab, and what happened to Sakina, and what all of these things, how difficult it was for them, how the children were beaten, how the children were kept in the blazing sun. We have a hadith, just one hadith, that the children of Imam Hussain, Alaihissalam, Sheikh Mufid reports that they were made to stand deliberately out in the sun so that their skin peeled from the heat. Deliberately, shade was taken away from them. And I began to just casually mention this to them. And I noticed that they began to tear up. Two of the girls' eyes began to tear up. And then I said, after about close to when this hour was finished, 45 minutes, then I said, and then Zainab went back to Medina. And then I said, Zainab is the one who recited the majlis of Imam Hussain, Alaihissalam. And then they all looked at me strange and they said, wait, you mean Zainab is the one that started this majlis? I said, Zainab is the reason that we have the majlis of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam today. This is so very important for, our sisters in the community and to understand female role models. And sometimes this gets missed. We miss this important point. 1,200 years later, this was the struggle of Zainab. We're here, we're benefiting from the banquet of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam because of Zainab. And so these young ladies, anyways, they looked at me and they said, so wait, you mean that tradition has existed for all these years? I said, yes. This is why we have our majalis. This is a barakah. It's a barakah of something that the sister of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam, the sister of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam did, that Allah has put so much barakah and so much spirituality in it that we have it here today with us. And then I began to think, after this event, I began to think how much, as we raise our children in America, how much we're missing by not going to Ziyarah of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. How much we've made it a tradition that just to show up to the Masjid, but that connection is missing for our children. And we cannot get it here. I've seen over and over the years, and Sheikh Falah will testify to this. There's something special about it. We can't just stay here and do the Muharram programs. So I know this community already does that ziyarah, so I'm not, I'm as I said, I'm preaching to the choir, but I wanted to just make this a point because this was something very important that happened to me that I've seen over and over for young people in America. Please recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ahli Muhammad. And I know it's late, so I'll try to be brief, inshallah. This event of Karbala, this story of Karbala, it is the way that we present Islam in America. I want to say this, that many times people have come to me over the years and they've said to me, they said, Brother Kauthar, you know, we're having a Muharram program, but there's a non-Muslim that wants to come, and if they come, maybe it's too much for them. Maybe it's like a little bit, you know, because of the crying and all of this stuff. And I've always said this. I've said, bring them. Just bring them. Don't worry about you have Imam Hussain Alaihissalam, and you're worried about, oh, things will get misinterpreted. Never ever have I seen somebody come, and that's a non-Muslim too. They come to the masjid and they go away scared. On the contrary, I've seen the opposite. I've seen somebody come and they see people weeping. They feel that connection of spirituality. They feel something that you cannot feel anywhere else. You can't go to any majlis, any other time of the year, or any other masjid from any other madhab and feel what you feel when you come to the majlis of Imam Hussain. And every time I say, just tell them to come. We had a situation just recently at the masjid. There were two non-Muslims that came to the masjid, and somebody said, you know, don't do the lutmiya and just tell the person to make it light. I said, just leave it. That's just, whatever happens, it just happens. Leave it. You're not responsible for that. Just allow them to be there and participate. They participated. These were two non-Muslims in the masjid. This Muharram, this happened. They participated. They did the lutmiya. They were there. And there were people who did it hard and people who did it soft. They were there and they participated in it. And immediately after that, they left very quickly. So I asked the brother, I said, call them back. So he went, he said, he introduced himself. He said, would you like to come back? The Muslim one, there were three people. There was a Muslim who brought these two non-Muslims. The Muslim person said, no, we just want to go. The two non-Muslims that were with him said, no, actually, we'd like to go back and ask the Sheikh some questions. And they came back. It didn't scare them. They came back. And there's story after story after story. This event of Karbala is the way we introduce Islam to people. It is the only event in Islam that shows every dimension of Islam. Today in America, if you ask the average non-Muslim about Islam, the average non-Muslim, they've done this. They take a mic, they go out on the street and they ask people, they say, do you know what Islam is? They do this all the time. And people give all kinds of answers. Some people say, I don't know. Some people say, yeah, these people want to kill us. Some people say, yeah. They have all these ideas about Islam. But when somebody comes to the majlis of Imam Hussain and they see Muslims cry, this is one of the barakah of Imam Hussain. When they see Muslims cry, they ask the question, why are these people crying? Crying for what? Why do they cry? See, these people are crying for Imam Hussain Alaihissalam and his family. I can bet you if you go on the street in America and you ask, out of 10 Americans, you just start asking them, they'll tell you that Muslims probably don't even cry. They're just angry people. And this event shows people the humanity within Islam itself. This is the barakah of Imam Hussain. It's nothing we even do. We don't even have to do it. We don't have to do anything. We go out there and we give lectures and we tell people about Islam and they think about it, and that doesn't convert them. But when people come to the majlis of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam, people are drawn towards it. People just come and we don't have to do anything. And we have seen this over and over again. So our children, we immerse them in it. And we don't have to do anything. This is the beautiful thing. This is one of the things about the commemoration of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam, that with all types of other tarbiyat and ta'aleem that we have for our children, education we have for our children, we sit them down, we tell them recite Quran, memorize this, do that, do your prayers like this. The majlis of Imam Hussain is very different than all these things. You just bring your children to it. Immerse them in it. Let them ask questions. Let them see people cry. This is all tarbiyat for them. You don't have to do anything. This is the beauty of it. Nothing. You just have to sit there. As Imam Ali Alaihissalam says, that your children are like a fertile ground. Anything that's watered in that fertile ground, it will absorb it. It will take it in. So God willing, we do the ziyarah. Allah gives us the tawfiq to do the ziyarah of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam, and makes it a tradition in our homes. This is how we connect ourselves and our children to Ahlul Bayt. That is how we do it, especially in Western countries. The topic that I'm going to talk about, and I will cut it short, inshallah, I'll just speak for a few more minutes. Okay? I know people are tired. I was going to talk about child rearing today, and so I just want to make a few comments, and then inshallah we'll wrap up. There are two prophets in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us as paradigms or examples of child rearing. The first one is Yaqub, the father of Yusuf alayhi salam. Yaqub alayhi salam was the father of Yusuf, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us him as an example of a father. The second one is Luqman. And Luqman is also given as an example of the father. In Surah Luqman, as you've all heard before, that Luqman gives these series of advices to his son. I just want to talk about one or two of them and then we'll wrap up. In the Quran, Luqman mentions, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِأَبْنِيهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ, that remember when Luqman said to his son while advising him. Okay? The first lesson that I want us to take from this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us something very interesting here. Before we even get into the advices of Luqman, let's forget about the advices of Luqman for a moment. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, remember Luqman when he said to his son, and he gave him maw'idha, advice. This means that his son was receptive to advice. You know, in America, it's very interesting. There are many children in America growing up, and when you talk to them, and they're adults, you see them and their interaction with their parents. It's a very, very important point in Quran that Quran is making. You see them in their interaction with their parents, and I've seen this with families. The father begins to talk, and I'm watching the children, and the children do this. They roll their eyes. And the father is saying, do your prayers, do this, do that. And the children begin to argue. We're not talking about 14, 15. Yes, all children go through that stage of a little argumentation. We're not talking about normal development. Children are in their 20s. Their parent just says something very kindly to them. And the child starts arguing, getting very angry at the parent. And I'm observing this. And I ask myself this question: what happened to this child that he talks to his father like this? What happened to this child? What we learn from Luqman here is that Luqman gave this advice to his child. He was able to give advice to his child. Nowadays, it's very hard to give advice to actually, it's hard to give advice to anybody in society. You give advice to anybody in society, everybody says, no, you can't tell me what to do. Right? And this is non-Muslims and Muslim children. Right? I myself, I have my own independence. Right? Mother, father, yeah, you follow traditional ways, or you do things this way. Our parents, something has happened to us growing up in this country where when our parents give us advice, we have this very angry reaction to them. Okay? For our parents, maybe there's something they didn't do with us. I'll talk about that in a moment. But for young people, our parents always have more experience than us. Maybe even the way they say it is not correct. Maybe the way they transmit it is not correct to us. But our parents always have the best intentions for us. Always. And somebody said this to me one time, and it was a very wise thing he said. He said, any time in your life, your whole life, if you think about it, you will always have to listen to someone. Today you can say, I don't listen to my parents, but you're not that independent. You'll have to listen to your boss. You don't listen to your boss, you'll have to listen to someone else. You have to listen to your wife or your husband. You don't listen to them, but you will always have to listen to somebody. Nobody is completely independent. No matter what we do, our parents will always love us. Always. They will always be there for us. Our friends will go. Co-workers will go. All of these people will go, but our parents, still when we're in trouble, I've seen people scream at their parents. I've seen people call their parents names. I've seen people say so many different things to their parents. And still, when they're in trouble, their parents will help them. When we look at the events of Karbala, we have to ask this question. It's a very important question. We recite these stories. What created an Ali Akbar? Yes, Imam Hussain Alaihissalam was ma'soom. Yes, maybe we cannot do what he did. But what created an Ali Akbar? When Imam Hussain Alaihissalam goes to Ali Akbar and he asks him if he's afraid of death, look at the loyalty that Ali Akbar had for Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. We have two lessons here. First lesson is that Ali Akbar's response to Imam Hussain alayhi salam is that, are we on the right path? If we're on the right path, I don't care about death. This is the first lesson, that we teach our children that above everything, that all of these other things in this dunya, cars, people, everything, nothing matters more than following haqq. Nothing. Nothing is more important than love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing that is important about this particular incident is the loyalty that Ali Akbar had for Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. This is loyalty. This is really loyalty. You know, I said this one time in a class. I was giving a class one time, and I said this this was at UCLA, and there was a Muslim student group there, and I made this comment in a small class, and I said that, you know, when your father comes in the room, stand up. And I took it for granted, and people, the students in the room laughed at me. They began to kind of smirk, and I said, "What's the matter?" They said, "That's just kind of, you know, that's just kind of weird." No, I want you to think, when we talk about Karbala, Imam Hussain alayhi salam was on haqq, and he was going to death. And we have come so far away from that when we talk about just having the loyal, just simple respect. When your father comes in the room, stand up for him. This is why Karbala is our paradigm. Because those group of people, that is our goal. This is where we are. That is our goal. I'm not saying everybody. There are some people who are respectful to their parents. So when we can, let's recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the first thing is that as we raise our children, teaching them a sense of loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to teaching them a sense of love. We ask this question. You know, love is something talked about in this society all the time. Everybody thinks they know what love is in this society. What I'm going to say is this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and love is in our fitrat, but we don't know how to love. We think we know how to love, but we don't. Who teaches us how to love? You know the answer. Who teaches us how to love? Ahlul Bayt. This is how we learn to love. How do we learn to love our parents? We learn to love them through the example of Ahlul Bayt. So many people say this to me. Many young people say, "Oh yeah, I love my dad, but he's, you know, oh, I love my mom, but she's just always talking, always doing this." We don't love our parents. Ahlul Bayt actually teaches us how to properly love them. We think we do because we love, everybody knows how to love, right? But there is a proper way to love. And so for parents, this is important. When we give the examples of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when we draw from this university of Karbala and these lessons from Karbala, it's important as parents to recall these stories to our children, not just in the majlis, not just with the sheikh or the scholar or the speaker. Oh, you know, okay, you heard about Imam Hussain, you went to the 10 nights, now go home. It is so very important to sit with our children. Tell them the stories of Ali Akbar. Recount those stories. Talk about the stories of Imam Hussain so our children begin to learn those lessons at home. And let them ask questions. Give them that dignity to ask questions. And then create this loving relationship. When we learn from the story of Karbala, create this loving relationship with our children. This is very important. Many times children grow up, a big problem we currently have in this country, maybe in other places around the world. I'm going to mention, please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali. A big problem that we have in the United States, especially amongst young Muslims in this country, because there's such a disconnection of family, is one of the things that Karbala teaches us, is it teaches us also family cohesion, right? It's not just about Imam Hussain and Ali Akbar, and it teaches us how every member of the family came together. What was Zainab's part? What was the daughter of Imam Hussein's part? What was Imam Hussein's part? What was Ali Akbar's part? What was Imam Sajjad's part? It teaches us family unity. I've seen many people, the family is in crisis, the person just leaves. You know what they say? I don't want to deal with this drama. This story of Karbala teaches families to come together. It teaches families to sacrifice for each other. We can't learn that in any other story. So this becomes also another important thing that we want to teach ourselves from Karbala. The other thing that's important for sons to learn, we have another issue in our communities, and it's happening in America as well, is this issue of males. And for the young males, many of you guys know what I'm talking about, because you guys are on the internet. There is an issue in our communities and in other communities, Christian communities, Jewish communities, secular communities, they have this crisis of what they call masculinity. Meaning that they have males who don't even understand how to be proper males. Right? They don't know what this word is, what masculinity, how it is to be proper. And in a world today where there's much confusion about this, we have in the story of Karbala something very important. Yes, we have the companions of Imam Hussain that go into battle. Yes, we have how they fought and their bravery. Yes, we have all this. But this is not just it. Right now, that's what's happening in this society in America. You have this culture that's telling males, yes, you have to be tough, you have to be this, you have to be masculine, you have to do this. And you have this subculture building. This is one side, right? You have to be extremely macho or whatever it is. You have this other side that builds, that says, no, this is all garbage. Don't be tough or anything. You just have to be soft. You don't even call yourself male. All of this stuff is nonsense that's being kind of promoted today. In the story of Karbala, we have a very powerful story to teach our children, to tell our young males growing up. We have this story of bravery, of true masculinity, of males that exhibit bravery, courage, loyalty. But that's not just it. These males experience love and they experience compassion. You've seen this, many of you young males on the internet. People have all this bravado and this is not correct Islamically. This is why Islam is that middle path. Karbala teaches us that. It teaches us how men should act. It also teaches us how women should act. This is why people come to me and they ask me this question. They say that, you know, there's all of these things going on in society with gender and all these things. How, you know, what do we do? And it's an emergency. You want to know what to do? Do we want to know what to do? Let them swim in this story. The more we teach them about the ashab of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam, how they acted, how the women acted after Ashura, how the women acted, how they conducted themselves with modesty, how they spoke, how Zainab Alaihissalam spoke to Yazid. This is our paradigm. I'm going to end. I know I've gone way over. I'm just going to end with this short thing I'm not going to do justice to, but I want to at least talk a little bit about the tragedy for 5 minutes. And I just want to speak because my topic was children. I didn't get to go through it, but those few points are important. And I just want to talk about this khutbah of Zainab and the khutbah she gave in the court of Yazid. And I want us to understand, we always go to the khutbah, to the end of the story. We love doing that. We love going to the end of the movie. But we missed all of this part before that. When we recount the tragedy of the family of the Prophet, when the members of the family of the Prophet were taken, the tents were burned, children, it's said that it's recounted that children were slapped. They came into the tent of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. After Imam Hussain Alaihissalam was on the desert of Karbala, they came and they hit the children of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. Imagine your children tonight, if they're in their homes and a strange man came. They would come into your house and they would begin burning your house. How they hit the children of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. Imagine that the children began to run. Imagine that they took the children and the women and they put chains on them and ropes on them. And the soldiers would say to tighten those ropes, to tighten those chains. Imagine the children of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam saying that they have marks of a whip on them, that all over their body, the daughter of Imam Hussain had whip marks on her. Imagine that they took Zainab and Imam Sajjad and the children of Imam Hussain, they took them from town to town. They stopped 18 or 19 times, brothers and sisters. And in every city they went, they put the head of Abu Abdullah on a spear, and they called all the people of the town, and they made Zainab and they made Sakina watch as they told the people to stand there and laugh at the head of Imam Hussain. Imagine the trauma and the difficulty of the children of Imam Hussain. They went from city to city to city. They took off the jewelry of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. They took off the clothes of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam. They dismembered his body and then they took the head from place to disgrace Ahlul Bayt. They dug up the remains of the martyrs of Karbala. This was all something the children saw. For any of you who have had somebody die in your family, imagine if somebody came and they dug up the graves. If they took your children and they whipped your children. They take them from place to place. The daughter of Imam Hussain Alaihissalam said, they made us stand there in the sun so that our skin would burn. When they arrive at Sham, the people of Sham come and they think that they are slaves. The people of Sham come and began cursing them. And Zainab is the one who was raised by Imam Ali alayhi salam. She comes from her house, from the safety of her house, from Imam Ali. She comes from being taken care of by Imam Hassan, then by Imam Hussain. And now she has to come in front of Yazid. She's been taken in chains in front of the worst person on earth. Ahlul Bayt was then taken to Sham in chains and taken to Sham in ropes and forced to be there in Damascus. And I want to just read a small section of the khutbah of Zainab alayhi salam. It said that when Ahlul Bayt got to Damascus, it says, at that moment, a man of Damascus pointing to Fatima, Imam Hussein's daughter, told Yazid, can you give me this little girl as a slave? And she began to tremble. And she clutched onto Zainab. And she said, dear aunt, I was orphaned. Am I going to become a slave as well? Zainab turned to that man and said, neither you nor Yazid can ever take this girl. Yazid said to Zainab, I swear by God that I can enslave her, and I'll do so if I want. And Zainab responded, by Allah, He has never given you such a power and dominance unless you apostatize Islam and convert to another religion. Yazid became angry and he said, do you dare talk to me like this? And then he said to Zainab, your father and brother were heathens. Your grandfather and your father, and you embraced the religion for God and the religion of my father and brother. And Yazid said to her, you're lying. Zainab responded by saying, you're nothing, Yazid. You're a superficial person. You use abusive language towards us, towards the family of the Prophet. You speak to us cruelly. And you use your power to dominate us. Yazid became silent. Then the man from Damascus said, then whose daughter is this? Yazid replied, she's Fatima, daughter of Hussain. And that lady is Zainab, daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib. The man said, "Do you mean Hussain, son of Fatima and Ali?" And Yazid said, "Yes. This is the daughter of Hussain, son of Fatima and Ali." The man then said to Yazid, "O Yazid, may Allah curse you. You kill the Prophet's household and take his children as slaves? I swear by Almighty God that I will not take them." Yazid told him, "By God, I'll join you with them." And he ordered the man to be decapitated. It said that Yazid then asked for liquor to be brought. He drank it and he gave it to his friends. And then he began to play with the head of Imam Hussain. And he said, "This is the head of Hussain, son of Fatima, Muhammad's daughter." A group of people that were standing there said, "Do you mean your Prophet Muhammad?" Yazid said, "Yes." And the people said, "Who is his father?" And he said, "Ali ibn Abi Talib, the cousin of the Messenger of God." We see that the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam endured so much difficulty in Sham. They had eventually left Sham and were allowed to come back to Medina. And Zainab Alaihissalam began the majlis of Imam Hussain. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to benefit from the majlis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach our children and engross them in the crying and the weeping and the memory of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and that they die on this path and that we die on this path. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to attend these majalis of Imam Hussain next year and the following years, to benefit from its spirituality. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all those who are sick, to help all those who are poor, to allow this tragedy of Karbala to be a solace for those who are oppressed. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give solace to the grieving heart of the 12th Imam. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Thank you so much, Brother Kauthar, for the beautiful and informative speech and for sharing your knowledge with all of us. On behalf of everyone, thank you so much. And also for coming to our masjid. I know you have quite a bit of drive back and forth, so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you ajr and thawab, inshallah. We're going to finish with Azadari, but again, I just want to mention those 3 events that we have our way. This coming Sunday, as I mentioned, we have 2 programs, 11 to 1 p.m., 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have the Fatiha for Shaheed Mustafa Anwari, who lost his life in bombing in Afghanistan. He is our Sayyid Rasul Naqawi's brother-in-law. Please make sure that you're here. And on Sunday afternoon, 6 p.m. and after, there's a commemoration of Shahada of Imam Sajjad Alaihissalam, hosted by Brother Dawood Sakhi in his house in Porter Ranch. The deadline for that, to reserve that, and this one in Brother Sakhi's house, it's for brothers only. So you need to reserve your space. Please RSVP by midnight today, Friday, which you have another an hour and a half. And also we have another commemoration of Shahada of Imam Sajjad Alaihissalam in our masjid this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. inshallah. And now we'll finish our program with some azadari inshallah. Assalamu alayk ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayk.
برادرای نزن صفای خود ترتیب کنین یا الله. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد 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 الله. پر محمد و آل بیت محمد صلوات.
On the sad and grievous day of Ashura, we are proud to be called the Shia. On the sad and grievous day of Ashura, we are proud to be called the Shia. When our eyes and our hearts shed those tears for Hussain, the master of the martyrs, Yahoo. On the sad and grievous day of Ashura, we are proud to be called the Shia. On the sad and grievous day of Ashura, we are proud to be called the Shia. When our Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain, you want to speak to enemies, told them of their evil ways and treachery, but they have no sins on their hearts become so tight that the grandson of the prophet they would fight. Ya Hussain, you saw your friends and family go to sun from me and pain and misery, such torments and trials and kids and joy, for your faith and trust in Allah is so pure. On the sad and grievous day of Ashura, we are proud to be called the Shia. Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain, you took your son Aliyazar to the enemy to give him some water, but they had no decency or symphony. Allah, they had no trace of humanity. Ya Hussain, today we feel for Sakina, how long she has been back home in Medina and is watching you with eyes full of tears, knowing that you're on your way to Shahada. On the sad and grievous day, Ashura, we are proud to be called the Shia. Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain, your brother Abbas went to fight, standing a bearer of Islam had such might, though he held the Islam flag strong and stand, and we will see it next in the Mahdi's hand. Ya Hussain, your brother Abbas went to fight, standing a bearer of Islam he had such might, though he held the Islam flag strong and stand, and we will see it next in the Mahdi's hand. On the sad and grievous day of Ashura, we are proud to be called the Shia. When our eyes and our hearts shed those tears for Hussain, the master of the martyrs. Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
محمد وأهل بيت محمد صلوات.
بر محمد اهل بیت محمد صلوات. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. فتاده زاده زهرا وزیر سم اسبان است. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. منم زینم تک و تنها اسیر فرقه اعدا. چه غم‌هایی که من دیدم در این دشت و در این صحرا. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم بان است. الا ای رأس نورانی غم زینب تو میدانی. بروی نیزه اعدا پریشان طفلانی. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. تن بی سر خدا حافظ و خون پیکر خدا حافظ. رسیدن جان هجرانم گل پر خدا حافظ. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. سار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. منم زینب تک و تنها اسیر فرقه اعدا. چه غم‌هایی که من دیدم در این دشت و در این صحرا. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. مرا نیسار بانشتر حسینم در بیابان است. بر محمد اهل بیت محمد صلوات.
برق داری یعنی ختم شد. زن مگو بنت الشرف اخت الوقار. زن مگو مرد آفرین روزگار. زن مگو دریای اسمت را شرف زن مگو درهای عفت را صدف زن مگو عرش الهی را کلید مرگ اکبر کرده موی او سفید محمد صلوات. ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب فخر علی مرتضی زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب ای زینب غم مبتلا ای دختر شیر خدا ای زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب باشد مصیبت های تو از عدد بیرون هر کس کند یاد از غمت می شود مازون از هر کسی باشد غم و مهنتت افزون غمهای تو داند خدا زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب در کربلای پربلا غم فزون دیدی جسم عزیزان را همه غرق خون دیدی دشت بلا را و عجب لالگون دیدی ای بی کس و بی اقربا زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب ای زینب دیدی تن پاک حسین بر زمین اوریان دیدی تن پاک حسین بر زمین اوریان به سر فتاده بر زمین انشهیغت شان خاکم بسر بعد از غمت ای برادر جان ای زاده شیر خدا زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب جسمت فتاده بر زمین ای برادر جان جسمت فتاده بر زمین ای برادر جان راست بنو که نیزه ها در کف عدوان افتاده ام یا آخا در کف دونان گشتی اسیر و مبتلا زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب ای قهرمان کربلا زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب فخر علی مرتضی زینب ای زینب زینب ای زینب اجرکم الله باراگو پیمبر که علی جان من است همدان علی با اسم محمد صلوات. متوجه زیارت لما باشین. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیک یا امین الله، السلام علیک یا حبیب الله، السلام علیک یا خاتم النبیین، السلام علیک یا امیر المؤمنین، السلام علیک یا سید الوصیین، السلام علیک یا حجت الله علی خلقه، السلام علیک یا ام الحسنین یا فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله علیها، السلام عليك يا خديجة كبرى أم المؤمنين سلام الله عليها. السلام عليكما أيها الحسن والحسين سبتي النبي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة. السلام عليك وعلى علي بن الحسين أيها السجاد. السلام عليك وعلى محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك وعلى جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك وعلى موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك وعلى علي المرتضى. السلام عليك وعلى بني ابن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك وعلى محمد بن علي التقي الجواد. السلام عليك وعلى علي بن محمد النقي الهادي. السلام عليك وعلى حسن بن العلي العسكري الزكي. السلام عليك وعلى حجة بن المنتظر المهدي. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليك وعلى آبائك الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة مع الإخلاص والصلوات. اللهم صل محمد.
وای از دل زینب چی شدن ستاره های محمل زینب. هدیه برای بی وفا دنیا. ای با وفا خواهر منو شرمندگی و این دو گل پرپر. ای با وفا خواهر کمکم کن مثل روزه علی اکبر. نسته صبر روزگار زینب میون خیمه بیقرار زینب. من میدونم داغ جوون چه سخته. من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب. من میدونم چه حالی داره زینب. ام لیلا تسلیت میگه به زینب. و بینا شده ام الشهدا بنت زهرا عاشورا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب. زینب ای امان از دل زینب. زینب یا زینب. آی از دل زینب کربلا به خود نشسته حاصل زینب. وای از دل زینب چی شدن ستاره های محمل زینب. هدیه برای خواهرم آوردم دست گلاش و طاهرم آوردم. تو خیمه دارالحرب قوقا مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم. مهمون واسه اکبرم آوردم. موندم حیرون شده چشم من و تو خیسه بارون. از حرم نیومدی آخر بیرون. و ویلا زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب. زینب ای امان از دل زینب. زینب یا زینب. ای بی وفا دنیا دیگه داره میرسه غروب عاشورا. ای بی وفا دنیا ای خدا برس به داد زینب کبرا. میدونی واسه چی دلم میسوزه. چادر و موی دخترم میسوزه، تن علی اکبر و این جوونا میون آتیش حرم میسوزه، میون آتیش حرم میسوزه. چه دلگیره طفل 6 ماهه ما هم میمیره، حضرت عقیل بزم می میره با ویلا. زینب زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب ای امان از دل زینب، زینب یا زینب. بی وفا دنیا ای با وفا خواهر، من و شرمندگی و این دو گل پرپر. ای با وفا خواهر، کمکم کن مثل روزه علی اکبر، مثل صبر روزگار زینب، میون خیمه بیقرار زینب. من میدونم داغ جوون چه سخته، من میدونم چه